Okie dokie, folks. This is Coach Mike. Going to go over the focus group spreadsheet that I sent you. You'll actually see the first line there is it's got blank for a trade. And what that actually is, as I go over to it here, is an update of my weekly chart. It's just done on a 3-year basis, though, to show you my weekly swing points, all that good stuff along the way. So let's get into talking about what I have listed on the focus group spreadsheet. First off, you'll see, and we're just going to talk about these by the exit target. That makes it easy because using Fibonacci extensions, that exit target's the best way to identify it. First trade I have up here is for the 207.01 target. Obviously Goldman Sachs took off a little more than I had expected it to. I wish we would have just closed the week on Friday. That way we could have entered that weekly swing point trade we talked about on Tuesday. But that's not how it ended up. And I want to point something out to you, again, going back to this weekly chart. We had talked about this, a lot in the past, that there were many times where we had that weekly candle swing point breakout like here, and then it came back that next week, even though it was a great big strong candle, came all the way back to retest that swing point and then take off. So the reason I don't have the trade listed for the 117 $200 calls and for that trade that we had discussed in our webinar on Tuesday is because I'm waiting to see if we get a retest of that swing point with the weekly close of 190.71. I've got 2 outstanding positions right now in the focus group, 2 puts plays that are down. We sold a calls play on Friday, our insurance play that ended up, banking about 165% profit, give or take, the 195 calls we had. So anyway, it actually opened up now where I have the money in the focus group for 3 open positions, and you should too. So remember, with my focus group account, I'm sticking to a max position size of $250 for the time being. So as we go along, make sure you're planning accordingly. And remember, if you were on a $2,000 account instead of the $1,000 account I did, you would just double the position size. If you were at 5,000 instead of the 1,000 I was, you would multiply my position size by 5 and be able to replicate wins and losses by percentage as I do in my focus group account. So anyway, back to this one, the 207.01 target. Now, one thing I talked about is the entry target, less than 196. Now again, I said this in the last few focus group videos, and I want to reiterate it. That is just the value that I use to calculate the estimated price we'd pay for it, the estimated risk and estimated reward. If Goldman Sachs continues up on Monday, still having those 2 puts plays, granted one of them's free, half of the other one, just over half the other one's paid for, but it's not like they're completely paid for. So if we continue upwards on Monday, I got to grab the 117 $205 calls. I'm estimating we could get those at 125, but understand the spread's a little weird. So the reason, it's actually, my numbers came up to 129. I'm hoping that if we get a bit of an up move, if we put our bids in at 125, we would get filled. The reason I want to do that is I want 2 contracts instead of 1 for my focus group account. So I'd be willing to forfeit a little bit to see if I could get filled at 125. Even if it's making a little bit of an up move, I'd let it go for a little bit unless it just took off, then I would have to take it. But that would be the first play that I'd be looking at for tomorrow, because we do still need to consider those puts. They weren't all the way paid for. It looked like GS was going to go down, and it didn't. It went up. So 207.01 would be the target for January 17th, $205 calls. You'll notice I didn't talk about where I'd stop out at, even though on the spreadsheet I have 191.88 listed, which is this highest daily close before this current move. That'd be a swing point stop. If it'd basically be if it gave up Friday's move, came back, filled the gap, and then started moving again, you'd be okay to let it do that. But Anything below that, if you don't want to potentially take a 100% loss on this position, that would be where you would exit. Just to keep things clear, as I've stated over and over and over again with the Goldman Sachs trades for the focus group, I, Coach Mike, will not stop out of any of them. So you won't see a sell alert. If I buy this, you won't see a sell alert if it comes down and drops below that point, because I'm willing to take the 100% loss. So let's just keep that in mind moving forward. The next line I have on my focus group spreadsheet is with a chart that has this 199.23 as a target area. The reason I put that on there, and it says NNT for no new trade, is I don't think that's a tradable target at this point. Now granted, would it be like a $4 move if it hit it? Yes. But the risk outweighs the reward in it. So people might say, well, why is it even on the spreadsheet if it's not a trade? It's a potential target area that's been identified where it could hit and pull back from. You know, we had the 195.49. It's not on this chart, but, you know, we closed under that. It's still potential that it could pull back from there. But if it doesn't, this is an area we'd have to look at for where it might be able to hit and pull back to take a puts trade. And then you might say, well, Coach Mike, I'm already in puts trades and they're not doing very good. You can either just keep looking at losers that might not ever come back, or keep trading systematically on the chart, and that's what you have to focus on. So the 199.23 isn't a target I think we should trade to. I don't think it has any value to us. I think the risk would outweigh the reward. Therefore, I'm not trading for that target. The next trade I have listed has an exit target at 209.11. You'll see that on my weekly chart, what I did was I went to this low right here. I went all the way up this up move to this high, and then down on this low of the down move. It projected a 209.11 target. The next thing you might be wondering is, well, Coach Mike, how could I buy the April 18th $205 calls you have listed when they're $450 for your estimated entry price and your max position size is $250? Well, I'm going to tell you that if you're trading on the $1,000 account, you can't. Just like I won't be able to buy them. But with continued up move, that is a trade that's identified itself. And let's say you're somebody that started with the $2,000 account and you can do $500 positions. You could buy one of these contracts. So I'm putting it on there because it is an identifiable trade that somebody could make. It's just that for my focus group account size, I can't make it. Regardless if I thought it could go up or down or indifferent, the position size is not healthy for my account. Therefore, I have to avoid it. Why did I put it on the spreadsheet? Because it may be a suitable trade for somebody else. The next trade I have listed has a exit target of 189.84. Real simple. I took the high here from 11.11, this low from the other day on 12.1, and assuming that Friday hit its high, remember we had that Fibonacci target 195.49 that we used to exit our 195 calls. So assuming it pulls back, allowing this 196.93 to actually be the high, I think we could find an entry on the January 2nd. It's a weekly option, the first weekly available in January. 192.50 put. The reason I want to do this one instead of like the January 17th, my account couldn't afford the January 17th, and I think if it was going to drop, it would literally just be a couple days to give us that weekly swing point trade that I was mentioning just earlier in this video. So I would want to give the little bit of extra time because, you know, the Christmas holiday, there's going to be a short market week there, and earnings is January 16th. And I wouldn't be surprised, just like here, the last earnings, and just like the earnings before that, if they didn't drop it leading into the earnings, which could give the opportunity to get that drop before the earnings is made and not pay the extra premium that's actually on the January 17th puts, the ones that will expire after their earnings is reported. So that's why I'd be looking at that one. This one, I can tell you right now, this trade in the January 17th $205 calls trades, this would be number 2, and the 205 calls would be the number 1 trades that I'm watching for potential. And pretty self-explanatory as to why. The calls trade is because I have 2 puts trades, so if it goes up, I need some calls. And this puts trade, real self-explanatory. I'm down on 2 puts trades. Why would I want to make another one? Because this one could be a winner, and I don't know if the other 2 will. So I have to trade the system. The final trade I have listed comes from the 60-minute chart, and I simply connected this little high candle you see. After it started coming back, you had a high. I went down to this 185.59 low and up to the high made there at 196.93, and it projected a 190.87 target. Now I do think we'd have to watch the gap fill. We'd have to watch that swing high at 192. But I also want you to notice that my entry target was above 196, and I want to explain this to you. For this trade, because it's only going to be trading the following week's expiration, this is one of those circumstances where Coach Mike may stop out of a trade. And what would make me stop out of this trade, should I make it, is if we break that high. If we break that high, I'm not even going to risk it. I'm just going to ditch it for a loss. But what I think we could get, because what GS often does do before it makes a drop, is it'll come up and make a lower high. And I want to see if that lower high gets us in that 196 area, maybe even to 196.40 or so, to make that entry. And if it makes that entry, or makes that opportunity for us to get the entry, I would actually take that second puts play. My priority for the puts play is the January 2nd 192.50 puts play. But this is one I would take only if it does exactly what I just stated. It's not one that's like, well, it almost did it, and this, that, and the other. If it doesn't make an up move that doesn't go higher than actually this close right here at 196.46, then I don't want it if it keeps falling. If it keeps falling, I'm going to buy those January 2nd puts and just ride those out. But it could be the opportunity to have 2 puts plays that could get down close to the same area and be traded accordingly. So that's what I'm watching there. So there are some opportunities that I'm seeing as possibility this week for Goldman Sachs. My focus group account has the availability for 3 open positions, or 3 more positions. So that doesn't mean I'll make all 3 entries. It just means I could, and I need to be looking for that. If I had to prioritize the ones I'll be looking at, again, to recap it, January 17th, 205 calls, number 1 priority. Number 2 priority, January 2nd, 192.50 puts. And the number 3 priority that's only going to be a trade if and only if it does exactly what I stated would be the December 20th, 195 puts. So really, as the high priorities is the first 2 that could give us entry. And quite literally, just so you know, it would be one or the other. It wouldn't be, oh, we're going to get both of those. It would be one or the other. If it goes up, we have to take the 205 calls for January 17th. If it goes down, we don't have to take the puts, but we might as well, so we can make profit while we're waiting on the other ones to come back a little bit. And that's how we'll look for that. As you guys know, today's my birthday. I've been at the office all morning, and it's about 3:30 in the afternoon right now, working on some chart studies and whatnot. My newsletter, when it comes out, is going to be a little more vague than normal. I'm actually going to wait till the morning to send something out with the research I did for some other stocks. But between the market overview video and even this focus group video, you could probably determine some of your favorite sectors. I do want to keep an eye, and I'm putting this on the focus group just hoping people will listen to the video, but I do want to keep an eye on the eBay trade for a potential second entry, and also maybe a potential second entry on Pandora puts. Other than those, I don't necessarily know that we'll be getting a confirmation for entries on the existing positions Monday, but I do again want to be watching the aviation and defense sector, the Lockheed Martins, the Northrop Grummans. We saw a lower high made on their 60-minute charts and kind of hold into the double bottom area. If those double bottoms on the 60-minute charts fail, we could see some puts plays there. But like I had stated over the past month and a half, 2 months on Lockheed Martin, I'm kind of more interested in letting it fall to take a calls trade. So I haven't decided what I would do on that. I just want to make you aware of it, and this is the best way for me to do it without typing it out forever. Basically because I'm time limited, because my family said they're taking me to dinner and I don't have a choice. So I hope you understand that. Also, oil and gas stocks. We finished the day on CVX and COP kind of at a double bottom area. It went just below by the end of the day. But the way CVX kind of traded sideways most of the day, shy of that last candle drop of the double bottom, if we got an up move in those, don't let this confuse you, but if we got an up move in the oil and gas stocks, I want to go to the airline stocks for potential puts plays. I took a little buy in AAL, and I might buy more puts if it goes downwards in that scenario. But LUV and DAL look really good for that as well. So kind of when you're doing your chart studies, stick with those. So yeah, I threw in a little bit extra from the normal focus group just to kind of get it out there to save me some time so I can meet my obligation with my family, who truly sacrifices a lot for the time that I spend here with everybody. So I do appreciate you guys' respect in that, and I'll be in the chat room tomorrow. Can't wait for a new trading week. Hope you're there to join me.